Okay.
Bill?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. For your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about whatever it is that we have decided to talk about. The title of today's show is A Humanist Musical, or better yet, Bang, a Humanist Musical. And my guest is Fred Strong, who is the originator, writer, music, and everything to do with it. And I've seen a bit of it, and it's going to be delightful for you to see when it comes on and it's available for you to go and see in person. How are you feeling right now, Fred?
Good.
Good. You're not nervous?
No, I'm having a bang.
How is it? I'm
bang.
almost more nervous than my guest.
Well, I guess that's because you're more professional.
Oh my God! It's like that kind of a show. Thank you. I love it. Oh, well, we need 2 hours for those kind of strokes, you know. Yeah. Anyhow, yeah, a little traffic getting here, and the weather is kind of goofy sometimes here this time of year in Portland. And we all made it here, and here we are, and now we're off and running. And as you know, the show goes in 2 parts. The first part is what I call the bio part, where I talk about you personally a little bit, not a whole bunch, so my viewers can get an idea where you're coming from and how it is you've made this wonderful creation called Bang, and other things about you. And I'll ask you a trick question now and then. And if you don't want to answer the question, you can say, I don't want to answer that, okay?
Plead the fifth.
That kind of an evening again, I can tell. All right, shall we get started?
Sure.
If I would ask your best friend, who is Fred? What's your best friend say? Fred is...
I can go get her.
No, no. We're going to start all over again, Mr. E, our director. What would she say?
Boy.
Fred is...
Fred is...
Just be her.
A mess. He's got 40 things going on at one time, and but he does have a few core things that he believes strongly in, and one is trying to get the arts moving in the secular community, and that's what is behind Bang. And so
the arts moving in the secular community.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, we're going to talk some more about that as we go on, aren't we?
I hope so.
Okay. And when and where were you born?
Oh, I was born in '52 in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Shreveport.
Mm-hmm.
You a Bigfoot?
Not that I know of. We hot-footed it out. I think we were only there about 6 months or something like that. And my family was somewhat nomadic, and I mostly grew up in Virginia. I was in Kentucky till I was about 8, and then we moved to Virginia, and that's where I graduated high school and college.
How come you moved so much?
Well, that's just my dad would take up different jobs. He was a printer. He worked for newspapers. And so he would get a job in a city, and we'd live there, and then he'd get a job someplace else. We'd move there.
Did you know I was born in the 9th Ward in New Orleans?
I did not know that.
Now you know it.
I do now.
If I sound like, sometimes I watch, who is it? A guy, a political advisor. He's from Louisiana, and he has that Cajun accent. He talk kind of funny, you know.
I guarantee.
You got it. You got it down good. Yeah. So, anything unusual or significant about your cultural heritage?
Well, I guess the early years of my life would be, to many people, unusual. I grew up. We were pretty. Didn't have a whole lot, and my first memories of growing up were in this little shack in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. We had a pump, no running water on the inside. There was a pump on the outside of the shack, and one potbelly stove to heat the whole place.
That sounds familiar to me. That's how it
Yeah.
was for us, and I was a kid in the Depression.
Yeah.
In the Ninth Ward of New Orleans. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have an outhouse?
We had an outhouse, yeah.
Son of a gun, we
And-
brothers.
Outhouse brothers. I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
But,
neither.
but speaking of brothers, my older brother used to get quite angry because in the middle of the night, if I had to go to the outhouse, he was the designated one that had to get up in the cold night and carry the flashlight and see me out there and make sure I was safe. So,
Did you ever slip and end up down in a hole?
no.
I've heard stories about that, but I never happened to me.
No, I think my granddad didn't make the holes that large. So,
A religious preference, do you have one, or do you care to comment about that question?
well, I'm a secular humanist.
Oh, how long have you been a secular humanist?
Well, I think for quite a while, I didn't even know that such a thing existed until, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But I was on that train of thought. Throughout my life, I had gone from one thing to the other, searching for different philosophical or spiritual bent.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere in my adult life, I realized that you don't really have to belong to one thing or the other. We grow up thinking we have to be this or that. And at some point in my life, I realized that, there are things you can learn from everything, and not any one thing has everything to offer. And so we take the good from all the philosophies, and the religions, they have some beautiful poetic things. You go way back, and you can find some, nice stories and so forth. But they are stories. They are myth, and when you learn that, then you sort of want to get to the sentiment behind the myth, and then you realize that pretty much a lot of philosophies and religions have core values that are very much the same. You can
Yes.
get down to about the 3 or 4 core values, and it's very much the same, and the rest is just the dogma that's built around it. But if you can cut through to the core, then that's really the essence of everything. And so that's where I arrived some time ago. And then actually it was because of Dark to Light that I actually found out what humanism was, and sort of aligned myself with humanists.
Yeah. Did you linger in any particular faith or religion until you discovered that you were a secular humanist?
Well, I
was a Catholic kid for a long time.
I would say I had phases. It was around junior high school age, which where I grew up, that was 8th and 9th grade. And I went through a real heavily Christian phase for about a couple of years. But then my rational mind sort of kicked in, and I, started scratching my head and saying, wait a minute, this is not exactly right. And, being dissuaded from thinking or trying to rationalize and just accept things that don't make any sense to me lost its appeal after a while. And then I think, I read a lot of different things, and I think somewhere I'm also very much a Buddhist too. I'm, the kind of the basic Buddhist feel of traveling through life and being a traveler and having to go with the twists and turns of life, and that's really what you need to do, and focus on this life and try to make the world a better place while you're here,
Yeah.
and don't worry about any other worlds that may or may not exist, but focus on this one. So.
And you're doing that nowadays?
Yeah.
Gives you satisfaction?
Well, yeah, I think it gives me more satisfaction than expecting things that aren't there to come true and being disappointed.
Do you think you'll revisit Christianity sometime in the future and become a Christian again?
No.
You mentioned 3 or 4 core values that you think all the major religions have. When you name a couple of those that are universal?
Well, I think there, one would be to be respectful of others and treat people with respect. And I think this shows up, for example, in the 10 Commandments, you know, not wanting to steal or kill or that sort of thing. And
those are universal to all religions, pretty much.
I think so. I think the positive religions, I mean, you know, there are fringe religions that are kind of crazy and wacky. But yeah, I think by and large, most religions, that is sort of a core thing that they have, and the people and the ministers and so forth don't always do that. I think in a lot of ways people become so stuck in their dogma that they begin to see the world as us and them, and then what happens is then they begin to treat other people that they feel don't fit their particular belief. They treat them in a secondary way.
Mm-hmm. And not as good as those kinds of people are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Your formal education, how much schooling did you get formally?
I went as far as I got a bachelor's degree in music composition.
Oh.
Which that and, you know, $1.50 will buy you a cup of coffee.
But it's given you satisfaction.
Yes, yeah. I'm beginning. I sort of put that side of me away for a long time, and then I had except in a career way. I was in the published music business for several years.
Mm-hmm.
And that has all but vanished because of the internet and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. That I was in the retail sheet music business, and that's pretty much vanished because of the internet. People are able to buy things over the internet, or there's so much free stuff. You know,
All the stuff they pirate.
Yeah, pirated, if that's what you want to call it, or, you know. So that comes there came the Buddhist when I had to duck and weave with life and kind of go along with that. You know, when that big change came, I had to totally change my life because that career just kind of dissolved.
Oh, yeah.
And what happened was, at that time, I made a promise to myself that whatever I was involved in a vocational way, that I was going to focus, I was never going to deny my musical talent again. And so I began writing again, and my latest product is Bang.
Bang.
Yeah.
The musical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll talk about that later on in the second
Sure.
half of the show. How long have you been living here in the Portland, Oregon
Portland?
area?
About 16 years.
Yeah, almost a native, huh?
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got a very friendly, likable smile about you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But
And
when I'm robbing stores and banks, that comes in handy.
he's at it again.
Just joking, folks.
Any other education that's worth mentioning?
Well, just I would sort of take classes in arranging and take private composition lessons here and there. I studied at a college I lived in Los Angeles. I was actually an actor for several years and lived in Los Angeles.
Something else wrong with you.
But I did take music classes then and arranging composition classes, and you know, I've always taken classes here or there.
Yeah. How come this interest, dedication or whatever to music and things related to music? It sounds like through your whole life it's been music for you.
Yeah.
How'd you arrive at that? Do you have any idea?
Well, it just sort of arrived in me. I mean, I've just always had a knack for music, and my family, my mom played piano. She had some musical training when she was young, and no matter how poor we were, she always managed to have some kind of old upright piano in the house. Maybe half the keys didn't work, but there was
gone.
Yeah, I was gone and all that, but it was in there. And then my father played harmonica, and he was a word person, so I think that's where I got my bent towards words, being a wordsmith, because he liked poetry and that sort of thing. And let's see, one of my brothers plays guitar and sings, and a couple of other brothers and sisters play piano. So, you know,
It's in the family.
It's in the family, and I just always loved music from when I was a kid, you know.
Have you thought about what it would be like for you if you didn't have music in your life now?
Do you mean if I had the same interest in music but weren't allowed to do it?
I'm not sure what I meant by the question.
Oh. Well, I mean, if I were musical and had the same drives, and when I sort of turned my back on it, I guess it would be one way of
I guess
talking
that's
about
what
it.
I meant.
I think there was something missing, and so I wouldn't want to do that anymore. I'd always want to be working on something.
Yeah, I can see it in your eyes. You're so expressive. It's beautiful. You have brothers and sisters?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, two of each. One brother is deceased.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm the baby.
so am I. But I got you. I'm the baby of 12.
Oh.
Can you imagine that?
No, I can't.
Phew, that was close. How have you fed yourself through the years? How have you earned a living through your music?
No. Well, when I was in the music business, published music, yeah. I actually worked in New York for a big music publisher there. And that was getting ready to break up. The company, they were getting ready to divest it and sell the real estate. And so that's when I started looking elsewhere, and I had always loved the Northwest. I had visited here before years ago. And I just felt the Northwest fit me. I just felt so like this is where I belonged, you know, because I've lived all over the country. I've lived in the Northeast, I've lived in the South, I've lived in California, but it was just something about the Northeast, I mean the Northwest, that I just felt at home here. Mm-hmm. And so I just, for the heck of it, started putting out my resume to see if there was anything out here, and lo and behold, I got a job with a company in Portland. I'd never been to Portland before. I'd been to Seattle, but I'd read about Portland for many, many, many years about how it was a model for this and a model for that, and it had art scene and a music scene and this and that. So.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, or anything like that?
Yeah, I have a significant other, Sandra.
Sandra?
She's in the control room right now, I think.
Do you want to go on record for how you feel about her? Number 3. I just mentioned Sandra. Look at him smiling from ear to ear. What a marvelous smile. You could tell Sandra on camera 3 right there.
Hello, Sandra, love of my life. Sandra was there through the whole experience of Bang, which was not always good, because I was just out of my mind most of the time putting all the pieces together. So it's only right that she's here in the control booth and along for the ride tonight as well. So
how long you been together?
Thank you. Almost 2 years.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Does she like you half as much as you like her?
I hope so.
Yeah. Oh, you have any children?
No.
And we're going to switch gears a little bit here. Your political persuasion on a continuum, are you left, right, or center, or what? Or Tea Party? Or,
I suppose I would be considered left. Most of the views I have tend to go with what people call left. Mm-hmm. But I'm not real. A lot of my views aren't easy to nail down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't go with any, I don't just say, oh, I'm this or I'm that. I pick and choose my issues as a...
And naming oneself invites labeling in the eyes
right.
of some, so it's a little difficult.
Yeah.
It's some litmus tests or some key questions that I might ask someone if I wanted to dig that deeply into what they're about. Mm-hmm. Would be more direct to elicit for me what they're about, what they're likely to be about in the future. Mm-hmm. Along with that, do you think of any persons from the past or alive today that you particularly admired or look up to? Any names come to mind for you?
That you mean that I've actually encountered personally, or just people I've read about, or
any of the above?
Well, I think one woman influenced my life a great deal in high school. Her name was Claire McDermott, and she was a choir director in high school, and I was having a little trouble for various reasons, and she kind of anchored me, and she would let me borrow records and books and things and take them home and listen to them, and that's when I really got into classical music, sort of in a self-taught way, and she really helped encourage me, and she encouraged me to begin writing and taught me how to, begin writing music down and that sort of thing. And so all this raw talent that I sort of always had, and she was the person that helped to formalize it and give me some hope, that I could actually go forward and do something with it. So she comes to mind for sure. And
did you do acting on stage or on screen, or what?
Both.
Yeah. You're so expressive in your eyes. It's just beautiful. It's so transparent. You're a humanist who walks the talk. I put it that way, yeah. So many of us have philosophies or thoughts or ideas about how things should be, and it's only a philosophy. We don't live up to our thinking and our wishes for ourselves. Yeah. I like to think that, for the most part, I walk the talk.
Yeah, I try as well.
And I tell my good friends, if you see me straying from the path, remind me, because I'm not done yet. Are you done yet?
I'm not done. I'm just beginning.
Oh, yeah. Any memberships in political or social or political organizations that you have?
Not political. I do belong to CFI, Center for Inquiry in Portland,
Mm-hmm.
and HGP. I'm a member of Humanists of Greater Portland,
Mm-hmm.
and also Freedom from Religion Foundation. Are you familiar with that group?
Oh yeah. Are you an atheist or an atheist?
Well,
That's a
the
trick
word.
question.
Well, the word atheist, I think, is misunderstood. But if you go by the dictionary definition,
Yes.
all that means is non-theist. So
Yes.
anyone who does not believe in a described God is an atheist, in fact. So anyone who's an agnostic is an atheist. Anyone who is not religious and does not believe in a God that has all these definitions, like a sex, like he, like in the Christian or the Jewish or Muslim, God is referred to as he and has certain attributes like is jealous or is kind or this or that. Once you begin describing, and if that's what you believe in, then you're a theist. If you don't believe in that, you're an atheist or a non-theist. So the word atheist really is a huge umbrella that, but people somehow think that it means only one small little thing, and like an agnostic is not an atheist or so forth. But the true definition just means a non-theist. And so, yes, I am an atheist.
I know of a few fellow humanists who would engage in some interesting conversation like we are right now. We could be close.
Right.
But humanists, I think, tend to be a little contentious sometimes in their competition over who has the correct view of what's important in life.
Well, yeah, I know. I find that true of a lot of secular people. But I go to the dictionary, I read the dictionary, and if you read the definition of atheist, that's what it is. And then if people want to take the word and move it around and so forth.
For a lot of people, it's a pejorative, yeah. It's a put down or it's a negative. But anyhow, we're getting off on the deep end for a minute here. But my director, Mr. Ellie, is going to yell at me in a minute if we don't take a break for a couple of minutes. And then we'll come back and talk about Bang and how you wrote it and all things about that. Can we take a break here, Mr. E? The mic's going to be... Okay, we're back. Thanks for staying tuned. And for you viewers who missed the opening of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is we've decided to talk about. And my guest tonight is Fred Strong. And I was concerned that we had the whole hour, and I didn't know what we would be talking about. And from the way it's going so far, we're going to need 2 or 3 more hours. I'm enjoying it so much, Fred. So let's have you sort of lead during the second half, because you're going to talk about Dark to Light and Bang the Musical and how your musical proclivity and your life and how you've come here to have produced this, and this is the high point in your life right now. So you lead me.
Okay, well, I'll start with dark to light. Okay, so how this all came about was several years ago. Before I discovered humanism, I was still a secular person. I knew that. I knew that I did not like religious dogma anymore. And I just knew there had to be other people like me out there. And so I started getting this idea of an event or a celebration or something in December when everything turns so hyper religious. You know, you have the Christmas and it seems like every religion has something going on during that month. And if you're a non-religious person, it can be kind of depressing, or it's like, has the world gone absolutely nuts? And then on top of it, you have the people talking about Christmas, but in a secular way, with Santa Claus and these crazy sales that people get up and stay up all night and camp out on the streets for, and I just would shake my head and say, is this all there is? There's got to be something with meaning, for people who don't who aren't of a religious faith and don't believe in the mythology of that goes along with those things. So I thought of where would it be a good place to anchor this, and I thought of Winter Solstice.
Winter Solstice.
Right.
To anchor this.
This idea of a celebration or an event or something that secular people could enjoy in December. It's a kind of a refuge from all the crazy commercial and religious stuff that goes on.
They don't have to embrace a particular religion in order to celebrate that time of the year, or their being alive or something.
Right, mm-hmm. and there are a lot of people who don't believe in the religious stories, and there are a lot of people who don't believe in Walmart. They should call it Walmart Christmas or something like that. Walmus. But there are people who just who want to reflect, who be reflective, and it just seemed to me that all the meaning was gone. At one time, I think Christmas probably was a very meaningful holiday to many people, but we are very diverse in culture now, and there are many people who just have to, it seems like, sacrifice something in order to in order to celebrate something. They have to glom on to one of these pre-existing sort of methodic belief systems, and I wanted to create something different.
Something other than the traditional ones that we know about
right.
in the West.
Yes, or maybe even in the East or anywhere, really.
Okay.
And so I was trying to think of a name, a metaphor, something like that. And so I started thinking of, well, it's dark, and what do, in this process, people used to celebrate winter solstice because it was symbolic of death going into life, or darkness going into light. And there used to be, a great deals of celebration around this way back.
So December 21st is when the days in the Northern Hemisphere started getting longer?
After the 21st, yeah.
After the
That's the
21st,
longest
dark to light.
night of the year.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as these thoughts come to a person, I thought of dark to light, and then I started playing with that dark to light, and it kind of stuck. It's you know, and so I ran the words together, and so that's what I sort of had. And I sort of didn't know where to begin, who to contact, or who else might be interested, you know. So I started thinking, well, who are kind of non-traditional people who wouldn't be religiously geared?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking up, you know, non-religious, and so the word atheist popped up, and there was a group here called USA Atheists or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to one of their meetings, and I don't think they're around anymore. And they seemed kind of angry and unfocused, and I don't know, just kind of a strange bunch. And so then somehow humanism, I think I might have heard something on NPR about humanism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like my ear kind of went like that. What is this? You know, and the person was talking about humanism and this and that and the other, and I thought, that's what this is. Secular humanism is what this is. It's like people who have a philosophy, a positive philosophy towards life, but don't want to believe in the religious mythology, the dogma that goes along with it, you know. And so at that time, Humanists of Greater Portland was the only group in town. So I went and kind of checked them out. And then I think later that year or a year later, Center for Inquiry came to town and started a group here. I remember their first big get-together that I knew of was they had a speaker from the University of Arizona, a well-known physicist, come to OMSI. And I was...
Oregon Museum of Science and Industry?
Correct.
That's in Portland. Go ahead.
Yep. And so I went, and there was a huge crowd. I mean, I couldn't believe how many people. And I thought, pay dirt, bingo, here's my bunch, right?
Yeah.
So I went back to the drawing table, and so I had written some music. I had worked with a soprano duet in town. They're no longer together, unfortunately, but they called themselves the Doolin Sopranos. And I had written 2 or 3 pieces for them that they performed regularly around. One sort of became their big piece that it was this comic piece, the kind of crazy piece that they did, and that became their sort of signature piece at all their concerts. And so I thought, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a piece for Winter Solstice for the Doolin Sopranos.
Uh-huh.
And so I wrote it's a 3-song piece, and it's just called Songs for Winter Solstice.
Mm-hmm.
The first part is sort of a throwback to ancient sounding music. They have finger symbols, and the intervals that I use in the voices kind of sound like way old music. And it's kind of like a promenade where they come on and they walk down the aisles and sing this piece. And it's called Pinnacle Night because it's winter solstice, so it's the biggest night of the year and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, you know, calling people to celebrate and have good cheer and, you know, reflect on humanity, and that's what the lyrics basically said. Then the next piece was a lullaby, and it was called Hush, Sweet Babe, and the picture in my mind was of a mother and a young child, and she's holding the baby and saying hush, and listen to the wind rustle, and listen to and look at the canopy, the beautiful stars in the sky, and so forth, and then it was also a sort of a little bit on the passage of time, you know, because one of the verses says, because soon you'll have babes of your own, and so, and then the last piece is kind of a little comical piece. It's called The Farmer's Daughters, and it's this kind of Eastern European sounding piece that's kind of rousing, and it talks about how there's this farmer, and he and his wife was not getting up out of bed, and he thought she was being lazy, so he lashed out at her, and then she told him she was with child, and so all of a sudden he was up and jubilant and dancing around, and
if I were a rich man.
but he wanted a son, you know.
Yes.
So he got a daughter. And so they made love again on Winter Solstice night the next year, and then he got another daughter, and then a third daughter, and then you know, but he loved them just the same. It didn't matter, you know. So it was kind of a fun piece to end it on. And so having this piece as the kind of the focal piece, I started to put together a program, and I found some musicians, and then I went to Humanist of Greater Portland and to CFI, and I introduced myself. I said, this is who I am, and I'm putting on this show called Dark to Light. Well, it was strange because I didn't get the response that I thought. I got, instead of, wow, this sounds really cool, you know.
They're so careful.
They looked at me like, okay, who is this guy? And CFI, I remember asking, could you put this on your calendar so people could see? And they were very iffy about that. And I asked if I could, you know, get up and just say a few words at one of the HGP meetings. And they said, well, we have an end, at the end of the meetings, you can get up and make an announcement. And so I was
It's the regular Sunday morning meetings.
Yeah, the Sunday morning meetings for the viewers that don't know, they have a regular Sunday morning meeting at 10 o'clock.
Here in Portland.
Here in Portland at the Friendly House, 26th and Thurman. So I was a little like the wind was taken out of me. Because here I had this great idea, I thought, you know, and I went in and I thought, hey, these are my peeps, these are my crowd. I finally found my crowd. And as far as I could see, they really didn't have any music or art or anything like that going. And I thought, wow, I could really fill this niche, you know, and get people excited about it. Well, as it turned out, there was a group at that time, I think it was independent of CFI, but then it later became part of CFI, and it was called SHEP, S-H-E-P, Secular Humanists of East Portland. And this was started by John Peters, doctor, and Kurt Johansson, who Kurt, and they've both been on the board of CFI for many years. And so I contacted them, and I said, would you put this on my calendar, and this is what it's all about. It's a concert, and it's supposed to, you know, it's supposed to appeal to secular people and non-traditional people and that sort of thing. Well, John was the first person who reacted the way I thought people would react to it. And he said, oh, this sounds great. By all means, we'll put it on the calendar. Can you come to one of our meetings and tell us about it, and so forth. And they had get-togethers once a month, and at that time it was only about like 6, 8, maybe a dozen people, and they'd have them at his house or Kurt Johansson's house. And so I went and, announced it to the people and so forth. And so anyway, this was set to go. I rented the Community Music Center over in Southeast Portland, which is a very reasonable place, and it's got a grand piano, and it can seat 140 people. And I was just doing this sort of on blind faith. I was hoping, I had a lot of musicians that agreed to do it for nothing, or if there was some money left over, take a split or something like that. And so I was hoping that there would be enough people that would show up, that would make donations, so at least I could break even or whatever, So that was the year, I think it was 2009, that we had that really awful, crazy winter here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, long story short, the weather did not allow us to have that first one.
We got about 7 or 8 minutes left, so, and I want to be sure to have you at least read some of the lyrics or something.
Okay, so anyway, flash forward. Then there was a potluck the following year that HDP and CFI did together, and they called it Dark to Light. And I assembled some people that were singers and various people to come in, and we entertained. And then we had a kind of a big one in 2010 at the Community Music Center. And so it was like the first one that I wanted to do, and we were able to do it. The Sopranos came and premiered my piece, and there were, the Barquettes were there, and other people sang and so forth.
Paul and Pete Barquette, long-time humanists.
Yeah. And so anyway, I took a kind of a year off, and all these people kept saying, is there going to be a Dark to Light? Is there going to be a Dark to Light? And I thought about it, and I said, okay, well, if I'm going to do it, I really want to do it on the scale that I want to do it. I want this to be a bigger thing than just calling a bunch of people and say, hey, can you come and sing a couple of songs?
Sure.
So CFI actually approached me and said, are you going to do anything for Dark to Light this year? And so I thought about it, and I said, well, I will come and talk to the board. And so I went in, and I was, not expecting, you go in with no expectation, basically.
Yeah.
But I asked them for a whole lot of money. For these groups, it's a whole lot of money. And it was like 5 times what they had agreed to for the one a couple of years ago. 2 weeks later, they called me up and said, okay, you're approved. Go ahead. Whatever you want to do, go ahead. And it kind of flabbergasted me because, first of all, it was very flattering that they would just will this money to me. Sight unseen, I kind of had a sketch of what I wanted to do. But number 2, it was like, okay, now I've said I'm going to produce this show, not knowing what I was going to do exactly. And so it was kind of nerve-wracking at the very beginning. So,
yes.
So I started thinking, okay, this is supposed to be a celebration, so what do secular people celebrate? Well, science and the universe and life and those sorts of things. So I thought, well, I'm just going to start at the very beginning and start with the Big Bang and bring it through up into the present day Earth and human beings. And we hit the benchmarks along the way, like the big evolutionary benchmarks. So bang is the first number.
Yeah.
And then from that it goes into 3 songs called Old Elements. So you hear from 3 different elements. One is hydrogen, which is a little on the proud, conceited side, because hydrogen is throughout the universe, and if it wasn't for hydrogen, there'd be no stars and no light. And
3 or 4 minutes, okay.
yeah. And so then we have Helium Tango, and Helium Tango has a chip on her shoulder because she's only the second gas, and she has to live with that. And then they call me Lithium, is the third one. That's the first metal. And then we go to a rap piece called the Post-Bang Rhapsody, and that talks about the next 400,000 years when everything was dark. And then we start to zero in on the galaxy, our galaxy, and then our solar system, the song called 8 Planets and a Star, and then to planet Earth when it was originally formed and lifeless and poisonous. And then all the things came together, and then we had life. And then there's a song called Life Wastes No Time, and it was about the generation of life. And then we get into the bonobos, which they sing a song on observing humans for the first time and how they're strange.
What a mind you've got. I can't wait to see it.
And then the second part, after the humans are introduced, is basically a commentary on humanity and so forth, good and bad, comic and poignant, that sort of thing. There will be Roger Bates, who is the webmaster, and Jay Small, who was the videographer. He came and videoed the thing, and myself. We put
Your name
together,
is mentioned, Roger. Did you hear that? He's in the control room.
Oh, Dark Delight couldn't exist without Roger. Roger is amazing.
He's a beautiful human being.
Yes, and so anyway, we compiled a DVD, and on July 20th of this year, the Humanists of Greater Portland have agreed to sponsor a viewing for the first time in public of the DVD of Bang. So
that sounds intriguing. Would it be useful now to read from one or two of your favorite pieces? That would be interesting for viewers to hear.
Oh, well, let's see. People seem to like the Helium Tango, so it starts out, it was a fraction of a second when think Carol Burnett, very dramatically, it was a fraction of a second when the cosmic cluster blew, and it defined my designation as atomic number 2, because she's only second best, right? And then it goes through the song, and then at the last verse is, if you're perplexed by my lament, just keep in mind I'm an element, and though you might think that you're able to be certain that I'm stable, keep in mind there are things you can't know, like the pressures that might make me blow. I already feel dissed. Don't make me more pissed. And that's how the Helium Tango ends.
That's going to be fascinating. I can't wait. Well, I'm sure glad you came here to talk about it, Simon. It was hard to interrupt you because you were so fascinating in your describing the process that you've ended up with now. Bang, the Humanist musical. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. And do you have any final thoughts for the viewers?
One thing that I really want to get out there is that we're at a point with Dark to Light that we need to take it to the next stage. And I was sort of doing pretty much everything, and so I'm trying to find a steering committee, to put together a steering committee. So if you are a person who is an arts lover and you like the idea behind what you've heard about Dark to Light or whatever, please go to darktolight.org and send your name and contact information, because we want to put together a steering committee and make this a big annual event that all people of the Portland area can be proud of.
Okay, we got to stop, because my director is going to yell at me for not allowing the PSA's public service announcements. Is it time to do that, Mr. E? Yeah, there's the broadcast schedule for the show for Washington County. There's the days and times and channels that you can see this show. And to watch these shows on the web, Google Don Baham YouTube, and there's hundreds of shows I've done over the years. You can choose which ones you want to watch. The ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. Without the ACLU, I think our civil liberties would be more eroded than they are. Thank goodness for the ACLU. I've been a member for 30,000 years. To get my shows broadcast regularly by your local public access station, wherever you are in this country, go to www.pegmedia.org, www.pegmedia.org. And next I want to tell you about corporate personhood. Oh, corporate personhood. How ridiculous an idea. The Supreme Court decision a year or so ago that says corporations are persons, and money is free, and we've got to have a 28th Amendment to the Constitution that says corporations are not persons and money is not speech. So go to Move to Amend and learn how to help us end corporate personhood. Thanks for watching this episode of Conversations with Dr. Don. And my favorite thought for the day is KFC, not Kentucky Fried Chicken. Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable, especially charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable to you too. And you too. And you too. And Billo in the control room too. And thanks again for watching. Good night, Mike.